Will Taylor, Chair of Partners at Finlaysons Lawyers and Head of the Wine Group. Thanks for joining us on the Flow Network.
That's a pleasure. Good to be here.
You've been covering this issue of collective bargaining, tracking it closely with your legal clients. Can you break down for us why collective bargaining usually is a bad thing and why it's important for farmers, especially wine grape growers?
Well, Ricky, I reckon it's actually a good thing. And I think the ACCC recognises that. The ACCC in its market study into the wine industry, for example, and the ACCC's views on this aren't just covered by the wine industry. They look at ag in general in relation to this stuff, and there are quite a few examples in other areas of ag where collective bargaining has been quite effective. But the ACCC in its report in 2019, its market study into the Australian wine industry, found that there's in their view, a lack of effective competition between grape growers and winemakers, and that's really due to the concentration of the purchasing power into a small group of large wineries, particularly in Riverina in New South Wales and in the SA Riverland. So they thought it would be a pretty good idea if a number of growers got together and collectively bargained with wineries. Now, we normally act for wineries, so I'm not suggesting this is a good thing just from the point of view of grape growers. I also think there are real benefits for wineries in collective bargaining. Obviously, from a grower's perspective, there's an advantage in if a few of them get together, it sort of evens out the bargaining power a bit between a very big purchaser and a very small seller of grapes. If a few of them get together, that sort of evens that out a bit. And then, therefore, maybe it gives the growers the opportunity to negotiate perhaps a better deal, better terms and conditions. But from the winery's perspective, rather than having to deal with a whole heap of little growers, a whole lot of different negotiations, a whole lot of different contracts, a whole lot of different logistical requirements, having to book the fruit from each individual grower into the winery, being able to deal with one provider of grapes saves a whole lot of red tape and a whole lot of bureaucracy, makes life a whole lot more simple.
I guess what I was getting at when it comes to maybe collective bargaining is a bad thing. In the eyes of the law, each wine grower or each farmer is technically a competitor. For them to get together and organise in the marketplace, that's they need this exemption to be allowed to collectively bargain. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Look, under the Competition and Consumer Act, collective bargaining is likely to be illegal. There's a number of provisions of the Competition and Consumer Act that are likely to be breached, things like price fixing, concerted practices, those types of things. But the government recognised, many years ago that there were circumstances in which collective bargaining was actually a good thing, and therefore they introduced into the law an authorisation process, which gave the ACCC the ability to exempt a certain group from the effective prohibition on collective bargaining. But that was quite an onerous, complex and expensive process. The $7,500 to make your application in the first place as a fee, and then a process to go through which took time, was complex and a lot of paper and cost a whole lot of money in legal fees, etc. So in the mid-2000s, they brought in a simpler, more streamlined process called notification, which was certainly easier, but still involved a $1,000 fee, still involved engagement with stakeholders, a period of public comment, a delay. So it was still quite onerous. So it wasn't taken up particularly by little players that much. So only on 1 June this year, 3 June this year, 2021, an even simpler process has been introduced, and this one really is very simple. And this involves a group of small players getting together and just lodging a notice with the ACCC, a simple notice. There's a prescribed form on the ACCC website. Simple notice, lodge it with the ACCC, give it to the other party you're proposing to bargain with, and then off you go. You can collectively bargain.
So it's probably too early to tell at this stage whether this is has taken off, unless we sort of talk to the ACCC about how many notices have been lodged, I suppose. But you think it might, this time round, there might be greater interest in collective bargaining?
I think so, particularly if the message gets out. And that's what we've been trying to do with some of our communications, get the message out there that this is available to people. I see no reason why it wouldn't be taken up, because the impediments have been removed.
Probably a bit too early to be talking nostalgically about the return of co-ops, though, I suppose.
True, but there is one really big co-op in the Australian wine industry. I'm sure you're aware of, Ricky, in the SA Riverland, CCW Cooperative, which is a great example of the benefits, really. I mean, and from the point of view of Accolade, which is a major off-taker from that co-op, I mean, it'd be hopeless for them to have to deal with hundreds of growers individually rather than dealing with that one incorporated body, CCW Cooperative. That demonstrates the benefit to the buyer of the growers getting together.
Now, speaking of communicating the benefits of collective bargaining in this simpler process, Finlaysons runs a wine roadshow. Are you getting out into the wine regions this year, or are you going to have to deliver remotely again?
Well, we're very keen to get out there, Ricky. We had some original dates which were publicised. Due to COVID, we've had real problems getting out there on those dates. So we're about to go out with some new dates. Some of the South Australian ones remain the same. We will be going to Renmark, unless there's another outbreak, of course. We will be going to Renmark on the 16th of this month, 16th of August. We will be going to the Barossa on the 19th of August. McLaren Vale, I think, is now 14th of September. Coonawarra, 13th of September. Margaret River in the west is still proposed to be 23 August if Mark McGowan will let us in without quarantining. And we are now proposing to go to the east much later than we had planned. I think it's going to be Launceston in Tassie on the 11th of October, Yarra Valley 12th of October, rather than 13th of October. Riverina, 14th of October, Thursday the 14th, and then Hunter Valley on the following Monday, the 18th of October. So if all goes well, that's the plan. Well,
some comprehensive coverage there, and I gather that if people go to finlaysons.com.au, they'll be able to find some more updates on just how that's tracking, and there's some articles posted there about collective bargaining as well.
Thanks a lot, Ricky. That's quite right.
All right, Will Taylor, thanks for joining us on Flow. Look forward to catching up with how the roadshow goes.
Okay, cheers, Ricky.